This is the OhioRAAM show, and I'm Vic Armijo, a member of RAAM's media crew since 2007.
Well, thank you, Vic Armijo of the Race Across America media crew. Thank you for that introduction to the OhioRAAM show. The OhioRAAM show is a show about cycling and ultracycling, and it's brought to you by the wonderful people who operate the Race Across America time stations at Time Station 41 in Oxford, Ohio, and Time Stations 42 in Blanchester, Ohio. These time stations are kept open 24 hours a day during the time that the race is passing through these two cities. And the dates for those are going to be here in front of you at the present time. Take a look at them. We'll be talking more about those later on, but these time stations offer 24-hour food, 24-hour fuel, 24-hour fans. It's a great place to come and see the race if you're anywhere in the Midwest areas, because there'll be people there who can tell you what's going on, keep you up to date on the status of the race. And if you're new to the Race Across America, a new fan, these people will be sure to help you get acquainted with how the race happens, what's going on with it, the rules, etc. Today's show is with the Scorchers, a four-person team planning to ride in the Race Across the West in 2016. However, one of the team members, Lisa Lowen, who you'll see on today's show, has broken her ankle. We don't know any more about it than she has broken her ankle, and that scratches their plans for 2016. I thought about delaying the show until after the Race Across America and put the team on for starting in the fall sometime. However, this information came so quickly and the schedule is set, so I'm going to go ahead with it, particularly in light of the fact that they're raising money for an extraordinarily good cause, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. You'll hear all about that in the show. We don't know what this is going to mean for the show in the year 2017, because Hoppo, also known as Chris Hopkinson from Yorkshire, England, was planning on riding as solo RAM in 2017. So we weren't sure what those plans are going to bring, but we wish them well, and we thought we'd go ahead with the show in light of the charity for which they're riding. And I'm Lee Kreider, the host of the show. Been doing this now for better part of 4 years. Soon will be our 4th anniversary. And with that, we're going to head over to Jersey City, New Jersey, and Tom Nickham, who will introduce the team to us. Tom, how are you today?
Good, Lee. Thanks. Hello from the great state of New Jersey. I'm sitting here on the banks of the Hudson River looking at Manhattan right out my window. I've got the world's greatest view of Freedom Tower, the old World Trade Center site, right out my window. So it's quite a nice place to be at this time of year, especially this year where it's unseasonably warm. We're still out riding pretty much every weekend. So the Scorchers, we put this team together. We've been riding together in different configurations for a couple years, mainly in the Minnesota RAM Challenge. We've done that a couple of times now. And now this year we decided to move up to the Race Across the West. So with us, I've got Lisa Lowen in Lake Elmo, Minnesota, right outside of St. Paul, and Brad Sarr, also in Lake Elmo. And then Chris Hopkinson, who's over in the UK in Yorkshire. Though that comprises our 4-person team.
Okay, well, before we go down the line, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into cycling and what else you've done with RAM. I know you've been there before. I've met you before.
Sure. Well, about 3 years ago, I weighed a little over 300 pounds. And I did bariatric surgery to get a head start on losing that. and regain my health. I was in my 40s, in my 50s, and starting to decline pretty rapidly because I was quite heavy. So I thought about what it was going to take to maintain that, and the only real exercise I could think of looking back across my life was when I was a kid, I loved being on my bike. So I got back on my bike, and I started riding a few miles here and there, and the skinnier I got, the easier it got, and started riding with a group of people in the Minneapolis area. That's how I met Brad and Lisa, and hooked up with a guy named Bob McEnany, who ended up doing RAM last year, or in 2014 rather. Right. And I guess that is technically last year. And I ended up being on the crew, so was Lisa. And Brad was on his crew for the Minnesota RAM Challenge 400, which he used to qualify for RAM. So we all came together that way. And then I met Chris by pestering him over the internet and stalking him and getting advice on how to crew for Bob for RAM. And ended up meeting him on a business trip to England and bought him dinner and his lovely crew chief Jenny, and picked their brains on how to crew, and then met him again at RAM 2014, and where he did quite well, and that's kind of how we put this team together. That's sort of all the various connections from my end. But I've been cycling really for 3 years, and have worked my way up from doing centuries to doing the longer 12-hour time trials. Chris became my coach last year and has been coaching me in the 12-hour time trials. I did 4 of those last year and ended up finishing first in my age group for the UMCA 12-hour challenge. So that's kind of my story. Personally, and then we kind of have translated that into a team approach to some of these longer races.
Well, I've had a chance to meet you a couple of times, Tom. I remember when you were crewing, I met you at one of the time stations. I don't remember just which one. And also last spring, I met you at Calvin's Challenge when I was over there.
Yes, I ended up taking first in my age group there. After a recount.
Well, one of the nice things about Calvin's Challenge, there's so many categories you can almost find some slots you can get into.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, in the order I have you here on my frame, it'll be different than yours. Next in line is Lisa, and I learned that your name is Lowen. I almost gave it the German pronunciation. And yes. You're up here in Minnesota. What's the weather like in Minnesota, Lisa?
It's cold. It's going to be about 16 degrees today. And a lot of my fat biker friends will be out, but I'll be on the trainer.
Okay. Well, tell me a little bit about your background in cycling, Lisa.
Grew up bicycling for transportation. Bicycled a lot through college. I was in La Crosse, Wisconsin, beautiful area along the Mississippi. And when I moved to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area of Minnesota, I stopped biking because there's too much traffic and I feared for my life. So I gave up biking for 20 years, and about 5 years ago picked it up again and signed up for an awful challenge called the Horribly Hill Hundreds. I ended up walking up a bunch of hills, and after that, I got a coach, Bob McEnany, for the second year, signed up for some more challenges, and was slowly able to do this. And so I've just been doing longer and longer events each year, and I really like that. Last year I was on an Ultracycling forum, and I was pretty proud of myself having done 9 centuries for the year, and they were saying, well, you don't really ride that much. So I did do the 12 centuries this year for the Ultra Century Challenge. But I just like doing long events. I think that's, as an older adult, what I'm suited for. So that's a little bit of my background in biking and so on.
Well, we'll be back to you here in just a minute, but let's go over to across the water up into Yorkshire. And We got Chris Hopkinson over there. Are you high and dry, Chris? Are you above the water?
I am the water. I am above the water. Yeah, there seems to be quite a lot of it around in Yorkshire at the moment.
Well, we should say we're actually recording this on New Year's Eve, and the north of England and Scotland, and I guess even Ireland has been getting. What is it, Frank? The storm is Frank. You're having over there.
The last three have sort of joined together. I think they called there was Desmond, Eva, and Frank. And I would have been a lot happier if the three of them had gone somewhere else, really.
We just can't seem to get the distribution of water in this world around to where we need it, and too much here and not enough there. So, well, Chris, I think a lot of people watching know about you, but just give us a little background on your cycling background and also what you're doing with regard to coaching.
Well, I started cycling in 1998. Started with some charity rides and long distance randonnees. Then in 2001, I won the British long distance best all rounder competition, and then promptly fell off and smashed my hip to pieces, and I was told I'd never walk again. A lot of people have forgotten that bit, actually. I had 3 6-inch screws put in my hip, and it mended and put back in one piece. And then I did the 24-hour challenge the following year, came off, and broke it again. And finished that 24-hour with one leg. From there on, it got better, and I've stopped being quite so accident prone. And I've gone on, become the first Brit to ever finish RAAM, and I've now finished it 3 times. The last time in 2014, winning the OhioRAAM award. What else? I've been UMCA 24-hour champion for the last 4 years. UMCA 12-hour champion for the last 2 years, and I won it in 2005 as well. The year that I completed my first RAAM. What else? I've had a good year this last year. Three 24-hour wins and course records. And after getting off the bike this morning, that's 19,920 miles this year. About 3,000 down on last year, but it's all right.
Some of us look at we used to be proud if we could turn in 5,000, and then we hear these kind of numbers. Wow. So you are doing some coaching as well, are you not, Chris?
Yes. Well, eventually I'd like to get into coaching, and I've started off by doing a bit for Tom, and I've got a couple of people that I coach in New Zealand. And a couple that have been injured, and I've been coaching back to fitness in England, and it seems to be going fairly well.
Oh, good. Let's go down back to Minnesota now with Brad, and I got to turn your mic on, Brad, here. I forgot to turn you on. There you go. So, Brad Saar, back in Minnesota, you're in the same town as Lisa, as I understand, correct? Well, now, for some reason, your mic didn't come back on. Now try it.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay,
very good. Dog, too.
So, yeah, Lisa and I, we're just a little bit more than a stone's throw apart. And we're both enjoying the very cold Minnesota weather. It's not really friendly for outdoor biking. I know there's a lot of people in Minnesota that the big fat bikes seem to be the fad, with the big wide wheels seem to be a fad today. But for some reason that just does not look attractive to me. It's cold. It's cold. So I do most of my training, most of my bike riding on the trainer from, November through March, maybe in April. We're lucky to get out in November if it's maybe, a little bit warm. But as far as biking goes, I've been around bikes my entire life, and I've had periods of time where I rode my bike pretty diligently and maybe for exercise, etc. But never really stuck with it for very long until in 2010 and 2011, my wife and I spent a couple of years in Switzerland, and riding around Switzerland really stoked my interest in biking again, and I've stuck with it since then. When I returned to Minnesota, I think that first year after getting back, I approached maybe that 5,000 mile mark, and I thought that was a lot of miles then, but now now I've met numerous people that, boy, 5,000 is really not much. But that first year after I returned from Switzerland, I did a 200-mile bike ride in one day from Seattle to Portland, and that was a great event. I did that with my sister, and I've been riding almost the same amount every year since, maybe an average of maybe around 4,000 miles a year over the last 4 years, and riding with Bob McInerney. He's not actually coaching. I'm not taking a coaching thing from him, but I ride with him, and that's where I met Tom, and that's where I met Lisa, and we've done several shorter events together, centuries. Tom has been asking me to perhaps maybe get a little bit into the ultracycling. We'll see. Maybe that'll happen someday. But right now I'm content to ride the bike. I look forward to the pretty much we do weekly training sessions with Bob McInerney. I really look forward to those. That helps me get through the long, cold Minnesota winter.
Very good. Well, thanks a lot, Brad. And we want to. My mouse doesn't want to work here. Here we go. Want to thank you. Some of us who are older know what the name Scorcher means for your team name, but I think I was told, Lisa, you came up with the name for the team. Is that correct?
Well, a friend of mine from the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, who I've done a charity event, posted that name in one of the leukemia forums, and I thought, that's a perfect name for a cycling team. And it goes back to the early days of St. Paul. There was, of course, before the cars, there was a number of cyclists called the wheelmen, and the cyclists that were kind of riding fast and crazy but still being safe were called the Scorchers. So they were considered a cycling menace, and so they were highly regarded as skilled and fast, but they were kind of a little bit out there. So I just thought that would be a fun name for a cycling team.
Well, that name's been around a long time, and not just in St. Paul. They had that name all over. And I didn't realize that the word safe came in connection with Scorchers, Lisa. That wasn't the image that I had, actually. And as you know, we have an image problem anyhow. Even today, they don't use that word anymore, but we have to be concerned about that. But yeah, that was very, very well-known name in those days. So we'll get back to you a little bit, at least. Go ahead. Who was it? Somebody wanted to say something there, and I didn't pick up on who.
Tom.
Okay. Tom, we have to always recognize that there are people watch the show. Thankfully, there are people watch the show that don't know a lot about ultracycling or RAM or RAAM. So why don't you explain to us what RAAM is and what it is and how it differs from RAM?
Sure, Lee. The Race Across the West, or RAAM, as it's abbreviated, is essentially the first third of RAAM. So RAAM, of course, is a 3,000-mile race that starts in Oceanside, California, ends in Annapolis, Maryland, and goes through a number of time stations, a couple of which in Ohio are your sponsors. But along the way, there's a couple of cutoff points for RAAM, one of which is Durango, Colorado, the other is St. Louis at the Mississippi River. And RAAM essentially is the first part of the RAAM course that ends in Durango, Colorado at the first major cutoff point. So I don't remember the exact number of hours you have, 72 or 80 hours, something like that, to get to RAAM, to get to Durango, but that's where we're going to end the race across the West. So that's our finish line. So we'll be going, I think it's 860 some miles from Oceanside to Durango, and we'll finish there.
So you're following essentially the same course at the same time as the RAAM is. You're just stopping at the, I shouldn't say just, because 860 miles isn't just by any stretch of the imagination, but you stop there at the Durango time station, which is also where one of the penalty boxes are. We just talked about that a couple weeks ago when we had Jim Harms on, who's the director of officials for it. So you are a 4-person team, and you have a goal of making people aware and actually fundraising for a charity. And I understand Lisa's the person to tell us about that. What are you working toward, Lisa?
We are raising money for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and that came up in my second year of cycling. I had signed up for an event in Wisconsin called the Triple Crown, which was 3 hilly, long 100-mile events. And I was busy training with my new coach, Bob McEnany, and my daughter was a senior in high school. She was 18 at the time, captain of her golf team, and she was really tired. So I took her to the doctor, and I thought, well, we can just give her some steroids, get her through golf season, get her to the end of the year, and she'll be fine. And they did a blood test on her and said, take her to the hospital. She has leukemia. I'm like, how can they know that fast? Anyway, so she was checked into the hospital for a couple of weeks and did finish out her high school career kind of remotely. But she has a rare type of leukemia for a young lady to get. And it's under control now, but she has to take a daily chemotherapy medicine that makes her really tired. It makes her really nauseated. She has to force herself to eat. And so when Tom had come up with this idea, let me jump back. When I originally wasn't going to do any more cycling at that time because I thought I'd need to take care of her care, but managed to still keep cycling and doing events as kind of my sanity. But when Tom had mentioned doing this team for RAAM, I said, well, most of the teams do a charity. Can we do fundraising for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society? And he said that would be great. And so our team goal is to raise $50,000 for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and they use that money for research and patient advocacy. And in addition to leukemia, lymphoma, and blood cancers, these drugs have also been used for lung, brain, ovarian, breast cancer, prostate cancer, pancreatic cancer, for treatments in those. So it'll cover a lot of cancer. So we're hoping to make a difference.
Well, it's my impression, and I'm old enough to remember, I don't know how far back, where leukemia, there just wasn't much they could do about it. And it seems like they've made a lot of progress with that particular form of cancer so that it's becoming a manageable disease. Is that not correct, Lisa?
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, it was like 80 to 90% of all people that got leukemia died. So that was in the 60s. And now it's 10 or 20%. And a lot of it's catching it in time. So they've done wonderful things. And so that's what we're hoping for, is in the next 10 years to find a cure for my daughter's type of leukemia, so she can have a more normal energy level and a more normal life.
Well, we wish her well, and I know it takes a lot of energy out of you as well, as things progress. But I just want to say that we're going to put on the screen now, Lisa, the website for your team, scorcherscycling.com. You'll see it right there below Lisa's chin. And if you're watching, excuse me, if you're watching the show on the show website, OhioRAAMshow.com, right below the video, you'll see a link to Scorcherscycling.com, and there's a place there where you can make your donation to the Leukemia Lymphoma Foundation. If you're watching it on one of the other sites that embed the show, you'd have to go to OhioRAAMshow.com or just type that name in you see there, and that'll take you right there. Also, on the show website, the show notes at OhioRAAMshow.com, you'll see a link to their Facebook page, and also I noticed on your Facebook page there's a way you can donate through that as well, I believe. Isn't there, Tom?
Yes, there's a Donate Now button right on the Facebook page.
So I will have that link in there as well. I'm not going to put that up on the screen because it's a little longer and a little harder, but it's on there. But if you just go to Scorcherscycling.com, I believe that's correct, isn't it, Tom?
Yes, and that'll just basically it takes you straight to the donation page on the which is actually a page hosted at the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. So your donation doesn't pass through our pockets at all. People who donate are donating directly to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and it just goes kind of under our heading so that they can tally up how much we're driving, but the donation goes straight to them.
Well, that's always good to know, and I think that needs to be emphasized from time to time until people understand that. I think that's true of most of the teams, but also, another thing, Lisa, that this does when you have a team like this, other than raising money, it just makes people aware of the fact of what's being done and what can be done. So we want to just urge everybody to go there, make a small or large donation, whichever you want. I'm sure they'll take either kind.
I'd just like to also say that the Leukemia Lymphoma Society has a huge presence in cycling. They sponsor a lot of cyclists and events, and Lisa, maybe you can talk a little bit about the team and training thing.
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, the Leukemia Lymphoma Society does do a lot of their fundraising through team and training, and that is to get athletes, experienced athletes out bicycling, or they're really good at taking entry-level cyclists and helping them through their first 100 miles. They have a training program. It's done in a team environment. It's very supportive. And if I did 2 years ago the America's Most Beautiful Ride around Lake Tahoe, and there's hundreds of people from all over the country that are raising thousands and thousands of dollars. It's really fun, and the team in training also sponsors a lot of triathlons and marathons as well. So they're very much athlete focused.
Okay, very well. Well, we hope we can help do some good there. It's one of the real gratifying things that both the Race Across America and Race Across the West has gotten so heavily involved in these fundraisings, and every year it seems like we're able to report more and more donations. It seems to be a growing thing, and that's rewarding. In fact, the show, you never know where a show is going to go when you first start it. You just throw it out there, but more and more we've gotten into trying to help people like you get some more awareness and more donors for these kind of things. We thank all of you for being on the show. And before we go, I wanted to just go down the line and let each person add anything that they'd like to before we bring this to an end. Brad, any comments you have to give us before we say goodbye?
Yeah, my first thing is thank you, Lee, for having us on the show today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. It's been nice to be able to talk a little bit about our team. I've been riding with Tom and Lisa for several years now. These are great people. We're now riding with a focus, and this is important, I think, for me. Is I'm riding with a focus, and this is all ever present in my mind as I sit on my trainer. Sometimes a little boring, but we've got to, this is for a great cause, and I hope that people can find it in their heart to help us out.
Okay, well, thank you for being there. In that vein, Brad, just a thought. Maria Parker, who has been trying to raise money for brain cancer, she said that every time she pushes the pedal down, she makes believe she's crushing another cancer cell. And I think a lot of us who have done long-distance cycling have tried to come up with some kind of thing that keeps you focused. And I was headed for home. I did mathematical calculations how much closer I got with each pedal stroke.
Yeah, no, that's a great mental image.
Yeah, Chris, what are your parting thoughts for us?
Well, I'm looking forward to cycling with Brad, Lisa, and Tom, and I'm hoping we can reach our goal for raising as much as we can for Leukemia Lymphoma Society. Well,
good, and I'm just sorry that you're not going to get as far as Ohio. Maybe you could volunteer to be an official or something. Come on and see us, Chris. We'd love to see you again. But good luck to you.
Thank you. I shall see you in Ohio the following year.
Okay, very good, very good. And Lisa, thank you for being with us, and thank you for sharing with us your concerns. I think that's very important. Anything final thoughts we have before we go?
No, I appreciate you having us on, and thank you for helping us promote our charity and promoting RAM. It's a really good organization.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And as I always say, although we have RAM in our name, I joke about, somebody didn't think it was a joke. I said that that Fred and Rick Bothling had disavowed any association with us. That's supposed to be funny, Sometimes my humor is too subtle, and people think, well, what's wrong? Is there some enmity or something? No. I'm just saying that this show is independent, which gives us a freedom to be free. So, Tom, before we go.
Well, thanks again, Lee. As everybody else has said, really appreciate the opportunity to be on with you. Having met you a few times, great show. You're a great guy. Love all you do for the sport, and thanks for letting us get our message out there and participate at this level.
Well, this just in, since we started editing this show, I got an email from Lisa Lawn as to her condition. She broke her ankle while snow skating and was taking a class, I gather. And they are planning on doing the Race Across the West in 2017. The Leukemia Lymphoma Society is going to keep their account open, so that website that you saw on the screen, and you'll see at the show notes right below this at OhioRAAMshow.com, is still good. She said, "This is my recovery. I've had surgery on 2 broken ankle bones on February 22nd. I'm in a split. We'll get a cast on Monday. I think the cast is for 4 weeks, then a walking cast. I should be back on the bike by the end of May." She says, maybe. Well, heal quickly, Lisa. We hope to see you out there in 2017, and we hope to see all of you out there in 2017. Well, thank you, Scorchers, for being with us. We wish you well. We know your plans have been significantly disrupted, and we'll be interested to stay in touch as to what is going to happen in the future. Please let me know. And we want to thank all of you for watching the show. For those of you who support the show, we appreciate it a great deal. We thank you for all of you who support the show on social media when you give it a like, particularly when you give it a share. It helps spread the word of this wonderful sport of ultracycling. On the show website, OhioRAAMshow.com, you'll see some information about what's coming up in future shows, the plans we have ahead. There's a place there you can leave your email address to get notifications of future shows. There's links there to information on the Race Across America and other things about Ultracycling. Please take a look at those. Thank you again for being with us. Thank you, Scorchers, for taking time to be with us. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye.
Music by Kevin MacLeod.
Oh!